What's up, everyone? This is Max from Amped Magazine. We're interviewing Donnie Gebert, a former U.S. veteran and recent author of A Direct Republic, The Null Hypothesis of Politics, How to Automate a Legislator. That's what we're going to be talking about in these interviews. Visit ampmagazine.net/Donnie Gebert interview for more.
Bernie Sanders is a bullshitter. Old school.
Did you watch his Joe Rogan podcast? I suffered through it because I actually wanted to hear what he had to say, and it was literally every second all bullshit, except the first part. I liked what he said about, he's like, these debates where we get up in front of, the country and trying to have these intellectual conversations in 5-second sound bites is just stupid. And that's pretty great that he said that. But then everything afterwards was a complete,
And I'm also going to say that was bullshit too. You know why? Because Joe Rogan goes for 3 hours normally, and Bernie went for an hour. So that Bernie Sanders you think Bernie Sanders is looking for more time? You give him an hour and he runs out of the fucking building.
Seriously.
Okay? So it's not about these guys aren't getting time. It's not about these guys aren't getting enough time. If somebody in the Joe Rogan comments of that video, they broke down all of his videos into all of his answers. So somebody in the comment section actually did the breakdown, and they're 5-minute sound bites instead of 5-second sound bites. That goddamn charlatan. He went on Joe Rogan. He pissed away a 3-hour talk with Joe Rogan, didn't smoke any bud, and left in an hour. And you want to hire this guy for president. He can't be trusted.
Yeah. It's crazy, though. There's so many comments, and they're like, oh, my God, he's amazing, blah, blah, blah. This is what we need. It's just like, you're just not getting it. Like, that's.
Every time you see Bernie Sanders' face, think, does that face deserve a fourth house? And
what?
Then quit looking at it.
What does he not deserve?
A fourth house.
Oh, right, yeah. Yep.
It's ridiculous. Oh, I think I hit stuff in the background here. Oh, definitely. I had to go get a topo, and my kids got...
I can edit some things out if you...
Oh, well, it's just background noise. You're fine.
Oh, okay. It's and when he goes on TV and for Fox, but whatever, they're like, so you wrote a book and you're selling it, but you're a socialist, and it's just like has nothing to say. But right. that still doesn't get people to come to the other side. No. That doesn't matter. Well,
listen, I'll tell you the reason I'm not selling this book is tactical. I don't have a job right now, but I know how to do lots of stuff. So I wrote a book, and I'm like, okay, so now I'm looking at this as, Donnie, do you know how to fix the Congress problem? Yes, that sounds fucking ridiculous, and I have to address that up front. Okay? What fucking guy's walking around who fixed the Congress problem, right?
Yeah, I got that from someone today, but it's just, I defend you to no end.
I understand. I very much understand that when someone says, no asshole figured out Congress, I will tell you, yes, I did. Now, that's dumb. And if Libra, the cryptocurrency, doesn't make any sense to you, go figure it out. But when you figure Libra out, you will figure out it is a problem for the US dollar, no matter what, no matter how you view it, no matter what your opinion, no matter your level of tech savvy. Libra is a bad thing for the US dollar. And that is how the government is coming together. The government pays for its budgets through chicanery. It taxes, and it borrows. Well, if no one is interested in buying bonds from the government, and the printing won't work, if no one's interested in lending to them, because they're not a good creditor, and they're only going to print to get out, they're not going to have any money, which leaves taxation, which is... All of a sudden, all of these cryptocurrencies, Web 3.0 is very much on its way. If it takes till the end of 2020 to see Web 3.0 break through, I'll be surprised. Mike Novogratz's ass will be doing the tap dance here very shortly out in front of people saying, look, Web 3.0 is here. I warned you. 2 years, 18 months ago, I warned you it was coming, and now it's here. And Web 3.0 is going to put out of business many people who rely on a regulatory state to function because smart contracts will take over those regulations, whether people like it or not. You're saying there's a group of humans and they're going to regulate shit. No, they're not. They cannot enforce. I do, I moved recently, but in my old house, I did all my cryptocurrency stuff in my garage. The government has to go into every garage to stop crypto. So if you're like, ban crypto, what you are is a dumb human who doesn't understand how crypto works, and you will now ask for laws that will allow people to kick in your door. That's what you're asking for. So if you don't fundamentally understand your enterprise, and you start asking for laws that'll fix it, you got to remember that in the legal system, it works both ways. You are going to have to deal with the fact that it works both ways in the legal system. The Constitution has Article 1, Section 8 is pure Marxism, but then you get a bunch of legal principles that are fine for when there's no electricity, but definitely don't work now. Like, you could say they're fine, but the founding fathers understood slavery and didn't understand electricity. So we definitely, I don't care which constitutionalists out there think they know. You can debate me. You're going to lose, constitutionalist. I am one. So I have no problem with the debate, but you're going to lose. Know that up front. It's broken. It's broken because it's Marxism, and it's broken because it's slavery without electricity. So when you put a little light on it, you're fine. Everything else can work itself out, but you have to look at who's assembling the system and why. What is the purpose of the Constitution? It definitely can be used for sinister purposes. That's obvious. So a basic contract that just says no murder, no rape, basic fundamentals. And even then, I have to get a piece of software made before I can buy that. Before I can make that contract, I need to make a piece of software. Otherwise, my definitions are stupid. So when the definitions of this basic social contract are wonky, guess what? You get stupid contract again. Every single fraud facet that can be pulled out, all the way down to I have to give my book away. If I charge dollars for it, I could be attacked by the federal government for in any way, in any facet that the dollar presents. And then if I was to try and secure my intellectual property according to US IP law, I would be able to be defrauded legally from my IP from anyone who could just throw money at suing me to get my IP for whatever fallacious reason that I couldn't defend. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So I have to skirt the dollar and I have to give the book away to ensure not fraud. That's the legal system you work in now. Passing information has a fraud facet where the government can attack you for money and a publisher can attack you for content, and the government can also attack the publisher. Okay? That's the fucking world you call free. If I want to give something away, or if I wanted to sell it. If I wanted to sell it, so start looking at the human population. Humans on this planet. Can organizations exist so that humans, just as they're born, walking around, they go learn stuff, all of a sudden they're now required to be part of the system? No, they're not. No, they're not. It's dumb. And that's a fraud surface. Again, if you're required to be a part of it, citizen, then it's not nearly as good as you think it is, because you're not allowed to not have it. And that's where it all comes down to. So there's lots of people who can get incredulous with me. Get over it. 2008 was the finish line for Flintstones. That's where Jetsons picked up. We can have that argument. I have no problems with it. I understand why everyone would come to the table and say, who the fuck is this asshole? No problem. No problem. However, pause for effect. It's done. It's done. You cannot fix this problem because decentralization. The only thing you can do is adopt the new norm. And that takes a little while. It will be a transitional change, but it's not going to be 50 fucking years. Not going to be that. And you'll be lucky if it's 10. You can go look at how the mark hyperinflated in Germany. I wouldn't want to use Zimbabwe or Venezuela. Like, if you're going to talk about a real currency devaluating, I wouldn't say that the dollar and, Zimbabwe and Venezuela look the same ever at all. That's silly. But if you go back in time and you look at the way the mark destabilized for Germany, it took, I want to say 6 years or something like that. So once it started to shake, and Libra is definitely the beginning of the shaking, but I think the shaking has already started with the interest rates and all the. I think the system broke in 2008, and it was fingers in the dam until about 2016. And that's when Deutsche's derivatives book was gone, and that's when the Keynesian bullshit blew up in China, where they could no longer stimulate to get their shit straight. So ever since 2016, China's been stimulating, and most of that money makes its way into the U.S. stock market, and the systems basically are on, the fiat systems are kind of on life support. They're on hospice. Because there's nothing to replace them, they don't die by de facto. And because a transition is hard, even when the new system shows up, it takes a couple of years. So it's not like everybody needs to panic out of the dollar. That's dumb. But should you participate? Let's just say if you don't like the way the government works in any way, shape, or form, you should participate in cryptocurrencies. I'm not giving financial advice. You got to remember, all of the lawyers are so fucking dumb that all you have to say is, this isn't financial advice, and all of a sudden, I don't let a lawyer into my life. That's like magic. If I can sit here and talk, and then someone says, oh, I heard financial advice, I wrote a law, we know this law over here, and he was talking, that's a trap. Some dickhead lawyer was writing a law that you're not allowed to say something in a certain manner because it could possibly be determined as financial advice. Okay, any lawyer in a legal system that does that is a fucking retard. I don't mind calling all the lawyers shitheads from now until the end of time. So these people, they're lawyers. They have a system that they know, and it's only one system, and most of them are little piss boy systems. People who do state law. Oh, I do state law, and I do 3 portions of it. Okay, they don't do federal, and they don't do international. So they're literally just some piss boy local lawyer. That's what they are. And that's the system is designed to make piss boy local lawyers, because as a lawyer starts to graduate higher and higher, they start to see the bullshit and the chicanery themselves. And it's a lot more conducive for a lawyer to say, I specialize in family law and contract law. And that's it. They avoid and they won't do criminal, right? So now they have a specialty. So think of this as a lawyer never leaving his hometown. That's it. As far as this guy's real legal understanding is, it's a state which is bigger than you. So you go ask this guy for legal advice and it works for you. Well, then if you got a federal problem, you got to go ask a federal lawyer, and they have a lot more on their plate because they have to deal with 50 states of laws plus the feds. But seeing the international laws. Once you graduate to where you do federal stuff, you start seeing a bigger work. The state work starts to look stupid. The international starts to look stupid. But guess what? These are people who have to crank out their lives. Most family law, the family law, the contract law lawyers, they, in the house. I'm not asking. Close the door. Thank you. Sorry. The lawyers have to feed their families. So it makes sense for the lawyer to never leave their hometown. They'll have a nice, lucrative life by not asking too many questions, understanding how the system works, letting the system do its things. So they're positively incentivized to not learn that the whole thing is just a little microcosm of law. And when you see how humans interact on the grander scale, again, we go back to economics. So because these people, everybody has to specialize except somebody in the military, by my understanding. At a certain point, somebody has to specialize. I never was forced to specialize in the Army or the Navy. None of it. So because
kind of social program.
No, generalize. If I had to give you my, after all of my military career, if I had to have a job title, it would be a generalist. I know all of this. I know all of the process that I'm supposed to get shit from one spot to another, and then I put a specialist in that place who does their thing, and then I go and make sure that the whole thing is put together correctly. In between, that's a project manager, program manager, portfolio manager at a certain point, because you have a lot of programs running. Portfolio managers don't necessarily know about individual projects because they're removed. So now you start seeing communication stratification and communication blanking out on you. So all of these things, it takes all of the things all together. The lawyers are probably not going to figure it out on their own. They definitely don't want the system to go away because their lives are very lucrative. Everyone attached to the system doesn't want to go away because their lives are very lucrative. So now they're going to preach to you, and I'll just tell you, start looking at your goddamn public service and say, don't take that tone with me, because they whine. Well, you see, it's like this. We're in charge of all of you, so sign here. No, sorry, that can't be the way anymore. And if it's going to be the way, there's going to be a fight. The end. But it's not, because honestly, all you have to do is expose fraud and it goes away. 99 out of 100 times, exposing fraud makes it go away. That last 100th time is an exception. We don't need to fix that problem. We'll deal with it when it happens. We fixed the first 99. That's like people saying, that's the gun control argument. We've got this whole mass shooting thing fixed to a way past Six Sigma level, but we're going to ban guns to fix it. What does the solution of banning guns come to? Banning guns leads to mass graves. State-sanctioned mass graves is where you get when you ban guns. We have the problem fixed way past the Six Sigma level with a heavily armed population. And of course, the solution must be the individual, right? The scaled solution done to Six Sigma level can be undone with the solution, but nobody wants to recognize the solution as it's already solved. And every once in a while, we get some killings, and that's sad. And even then, it appears a lot of them are chicanery. They show up at the most convenient times, don't they? Man, nothing like a national debate on guns when Jeffrey Epstein's files are dropping and his life is in danger. Let's have a national goddamn debate on guns again, as if that wasn't stupid the first time and every time after that. And the answer is no. And why did they put it on TV?
I like your point about exposing the fraud, and that's when I always have a conversation. I'm just like to your point, it's like we're expecting 500 people to legislate federally for 50 states, over 330 million people. They're going to legislate and be able to know exactly what everyone is, what's the best for everyone, not hurt, cause any problems. And look what they've already done, and I feel like that's like the strongest point. It's like there's the fraud right there. We're about like representative democracy. 500 people. Like, what's the percentage of 500 to 330 million people? That's like a fraction of a percent. So like, where?
Nope.
Like, how do we go with this?
That's values. Don't worry about values. Fraud, if you can point out fraud, it means the system doesn't work. The end. The system is fraudulent because it clearly has a fraud surface right here. You don't have to discuss values with people, and you don't have the goddamn existential argument that everybody wants to. Everybody wants to die on the hill of I know why this all works. Nobody knows why it works. Almost nobody knows how it works. Let's focus on the how. And as soon as you look, fraud right here, because in the Six Sigma process, you're looking for MUDA. Any fraud surface is de facto MUDA. So you don't have to have these arguments. You don't have to sit around and discuss why abortion is good and or bad. You discuss the legal processes that you will deal with abortion on. And that should be none. Anybody who thinks abortion law is a good idea gets to have a debate with me. The end. It's a stupid topic. You don't know what you're talking about because you don't understand how law is used. I don't care about ideologies about abortion. Anyone who thinks they could regulate that activity or make it smart with a law is stupid because they don't know the law. They don't know how the law works. The law will never be The law can never fix the abortion topic. So everyone involved in the topic thinking that legislation is going to fix it is a dumbass. And that's everything. Legislation does not inherently fix any topic. If that legislation leads to a Rube Goldberg machine that somehow fixes a problem, okay. But don't blame the legislation. It was fundamentally an unnecessary and wasteful part of the process. Fundamentally. You could have just seen this advertised by some guy. I'm doing what I'm telling you to do. If you're a guy in your hometown and you know how to reorganize your hometown with a smart contract system, and I've described it several times, then go do that. You don't ask permission. You go set up that smart contract. Now, this requires a little venture capital, but once you get your Chamber of Commerce and your Better Business Bureau on board, you let everyone in your town know, hey, we have this smart contract system already set up, good to go for you. All we need is the government to comply and put the tax system on it so that they don't have in charge of it anymore. And they're a bunch of servants and they work for us anyway. So when we tell them to put it on the system that's already in place, the answer is yes. And I got a strange feeling that your mayor's going to have something to say about it. And when he does, you remind him he's fucking, and he'll do as he's goddamn told. And that is another fundamental problem that people seem to have this misperception, like we're supposed to respect public servants. No, we're not. We're supposed to abuse the help. They don't like their job, they can fucking quit. They are not the saviors of civil society, I'm certain. I was a government monkey for 19 years. They are not. The lady at the DMV is telling you that you need permission to move around the country. No, you fucking don't. Your insurance company requires you to be certified in the use of your vehicle. Okay? And it's even your car. Vehicle is a commercial term. Driver is a commercial term. And all of the regulatory enforcement around cars works along the Commerce Clause. And all of that came from Commerce a long time ago, and that was stupid. So regardless of how you think these systems work, these people don't know how to run them. And listen, they're big goddamn systems. Cops don't know what the lawyers do. Lawyers don't necessarily know what the cops do until it becomes a trial. Judges don't necessarily know what anything happened, and they're supposed to be partial, but they're not because their paycheck requires them to favor the state. Okay? So at a certain point, there's a judiciary, an executive, and a legislature. Well, you're not part of any of them. You are not part of any of those organizations. When you are given a speeding ticket, you are going to go to court. You are going to be told that the holy writ of the legislature shall now be prosecuted by the executive and not stopped by the judiciary, because the judiciary is obviously illiterate these days. They haven't kept the executive out of anybody's pockets, and they haven't kept the legislature out of anybody's pockets. So honestly, I need everybody in America to start copying an attitude with everyone else, okay? Be a little rude and say no. No, human, I don't know who you are. Fuck you, go away. I don't care. Now, when it comes to changing your city systems, once you have a solution in place, you no longer have to ask your city government permission for things. That's the beauty of knowing what you're doing, bringing a solution to the table. So when you bring that there, your mayor doesn't get to say no, but you have to make sure that your town is understanding, hey, look, we want to do this system. So it's not two guys coming up with a smart contract and placing a gun to the head of the mayor. It's getting your smart contract together, and then you have to advertise, hey, everybody, you show up to the meeting where your mayor's, he schedules a meeting and like, yeah, we're all going to talk about the vote. And then you stand up and say, excuse me, everyone, I know it's not my forum, but this guy isn't, well, there's a new, you could blame the mayor if he's corrupt, but if not, you can say, hey, everyone, we now have an ability to make all of this cheaper and smarter. And then you have to go back the next month, and you have to tell them at the meeting again, and the meeting again. But eventually, I get callbacks from people like you. So like, you don't understand. If you figure out what's going on, we will spread the word for absolutely goddamn nothing about how to fix the problem. We'll spread the word about what these cops look like and how fucking amateurish they are. So if they're this bad, you don't have to pay for them anyway, and you sure as hell don't have to listen to them because they're servants to begin with. This is the fundamental problem that people are not really grasping. These goddamn people are servants and they're barking orders and shooting dogs. This is fucking dumb. So stop with your thin blue line stuff and start remembering that protection services and regulatory enforcement are two different things. And if your cops are only doing protective services, then you got good cops. And if your cops are also doing regulatory enforcement, you don't have good cops. You might have, and I mean by that, by quality. Your cops should be telling everyone, no, we only do protection. We don't do regulatory enforcement. We are not going to corrupt our department with fraud services that look like steady paychecks for our gear budgets. The feds used to pay for drug busts. The state will pay for speeding tickets. So you've seen certain police departments fully embrace the combative, we're going to police the shit out of everyone for money. And they all have lots of cop cars and lots of guns, and they have an RV, and they all have lots of body armor and sexy radios. And then you have the other departments who did not bust anybody for pot. They didn't give a shit about the regulatory stuff. They handled the problems as they do. And they're little small town, sheriff and cop departments that don't have all the flash and crash, but they have nice, stable populations of human beings who know that their sheriff isn't a fucking lunatic. So you have the whole extremes, and everybody just needs to understand where it comes from. And you get to the root causes, and you deal with it.
You kind of went into it before of, people wouldn't fund a venture capitalist idea based on violence or something like that. Like, I certainly know how private protection would look, what would look like, but like for layman's, like what would, if there's no cops, what would it look like?
What does it look like right now? Private protection right now is a very expensive business. The concept that we're all going to have shared resources called cops, and we're all going to have private security, except they're not, it doesn't work that way. If you think you need cop-like security in America, you're a child, with token exceptions. There are very few people who need cops, and most of them are behaving in a manner that requires to have security around them. Some people are in the public sphere and they run their mouth in a particular way and they need some security people. That's the way that works. But other than that, do you and I listen, I called 911 once in my life. My son walked out of my yard. He was 3 years old. He walked out of my yard to a little park that he knew was close to my house. Okay? When I called 911. And the first thing I got was a cop instead of a fire department worth of dudes to fan out. I don't want a cop. You know what that cop wouldn't do? He wouldn't look for my kid unless he'd been in my house first. I'm going to look in the house first, as if I hadn't, right? So there's this, well, the cop is just being thorough. He's not being thorough. The child isn't hiding. I wouldn't have dialed 911 unless I looked. I understand that there are some dumb parents who might do that, and that the cops might save themselves time from looking. Okay, I genuinely recognize that, but be very careful. Okay, a cop in your house is inviting a vampire into your house. They will start looking for things that they could bust you on, not necessarily looking for a small child. Not to mention, when you're looking for a small child, they could just start rooting through some shit anywhere a small child could hide. And if they find something, they might stop looking for the child and just take you. Maybe they'll wait till later. You don't know their priorities. But the point is, when you call for backup, it should not look like parasites that will enforce some regulation. So these piss boys, I'm done with these guys. I recently got a ticket in Austin. I'm fighting. And not only am I fighting the whole thing, I'm just not giving them any money. If they want a firefight over $300, okay. If this is what public service looks like, okay. You'll be thanking for me for my service here in a minute if they pick a fight with me. So I'm not worried about it. Piss boys, when you tell them to move, they move. They move. So again, it's not about the fighting. It's about getting to the system that will allow these things to happen ergonomically and intelligently in an economic manner that will function. It doesn't have to be the way I determine or you determine. It has to be a manner that will function and not hurt people. You know, when this all works out normally, it's Walmart and CVS. I'm sorry, Walgreens and CVS. That's it. We have two different structures and they operate like that. And that's how all this stuff is going to function. It's falling apart now because the federal government can't stop the planet from putting holes in the dollar. So we're going to experience a change. Will it be exactly like I'm telling you? Maybe not, but I'm telling you that you want that change. I'm certain. Anyone who has an argument against this book, show up. Show up. I'm looking for arguments against because I haven't had any negative anything. No, but everybody seems to understand what I'm saying, and I'm just trying to get the book to go faster. That's all. And it's not even the book; it's the message. And if somebody dumps a bunch of crypto in there, then I will start software development, and this whole project will get going. But
that's why I wouldn't want you to have a firefight over a traffic ticket, though. Like I get the motive of it, but like I would rather have you have some software developed and you like get your city together and you're ready to go with it, and then they come after you, and then you're just like, screw you, I'm not going to take your shit. Come after me.
You have to understand. The answer is no. When everyone in the community says no, you're good. But it doesn't start until someone does. So I'm going to fight the ticket. I'm going to go into the administrative setting, and I'm going to tell the jury every fraud that the judge is committing, and I'm going to wait for them to either handcuff me, listen, the only time they'll handcuff me is if they don't like what I'm saying and they tell me to stop. Otherwise, I'm just not allowed to present my case. These people are what they're going to pay. It's an administrative setting. It's not even real. You go to a de novo trial. I'm not even getting into it. It's dumb. All I'm saying is this is dumb, and everyone seems to be soft bullied into it through ignorance, and then the hard bullying of, well, it's the government. And I'm like, oh, it's the government, is it? Well, you're a bunch of fucking servants, so shut your mouths and do what you're told. Because that's what the cops need to hear. You're a servant. You don't like your fucking job, asshole. You quit, you go home, period.
But you can say that, and I hear it in your voice that you are very meaningful in what you're saying. But like, I want to give them motive to. I know you do, and like I feel like telling them straight up like that and to their faces in their court, like that does a lot. But like taking to the extreme, like having them come to your place with guns, which I don't think would happen for something like this, obviously. But like, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't want anything to happen to you for
they're not,
something minor thing like that.
These are all piss boys. They're all piss boys. They're out. Most of them don't know their own job. And the ones that eventually figure out the regulatory enforcement thing, you want to know how stupid they are? I don't want to hear about cops' families anymore. They're out there enforcing economic regulations that don't work, and they're exposing themselves to danger while they do so. And then I'm supposed to feel bad when I see a pile of flowers on the side of the road and some kid doesn't have a father anymore? No. That dumb fucker didn't know his job, chose to do it for money, and he got killed. Just like I could have in several countries for being an American serviceman. And that's the job. And they want to be immune from it. And they're not. And that job isn't qualified immunity, it's the laws of physics. You cannot tell a human being, go expose yourself to other random humans in random places on the side of the road where it will be you and that other human, and then we hope it works out for you all of the times that you try it. What? It's stupid. It's stupid. That person is not responding to anything. They're not protecting a victim. They are exposing themselves to harm for regulatory enforcement, and when they get killed doing it, I don't care at all. They're dumb. And if everybody wants to hold a different opinion of it, go ahead. But what they're doing is still the same. It's still the same economic racket, and it's still exposing them to danger. And if they get killed doing it, what immunity do you think the legal system could provide for them? Nothing. Nothing. So if you're an amateur and you don't know how to rob people on the side of the road, okay, but listen, the cops are robbing people on the side of the road as safely as you can. You can call it regulatory enforcement if you desire, but you're not changing the enterprise. You're not changing the humans that are doing it. They're not smart enough to not do it. Obviously, they will expose themselves to danger. You know why? Because they're not afraid of you. Well, as soon as they're afraid for their life, what happens? They're immune to kill you. That is not a system of protection, campers, at all, period. I don't give a shit which liberal-ass lawyer wants to restate what I just told you. It's 100% process fraud. And everybody gets out of the way when the fraud is exposed. But you have to be the person who will stand in the face of fraud and say, get the fuck out of my way. I don't give a shit who you think you are. Don't take it personal. Take it home and get it out of my face. This is you and I are just dealing with each other in the public sphere. We're driving by each other every day. Very few problems every day. These people are authorized to cause the exceptions, and now the exceptions are causing problems. And supposedly, like, the theory is that we authorized them. No, we didn't. This is all a bunch of ignorant bullshit that we were fed when we were children. That's it. When you relearn your 8th grade civics class, there is literally no government operations that make sense anymore. None. Because they're not supposed to. They are an economic racket, de facto. That's what they are. Forced centralization of funds is a de facto economic racket.
And I want to hammer home again, like, why we're at this point, like, because, like, with the government schools, with the police and the legal, the unequal legal system we have now, it's because of all this ignorance and kind of the Jesus kind of belief in the higher power of government belief that's been going on for so long. And like, I want to, again, just like, what would you say, like, to, like, people that are like, oh, it's, and I know you've went over this, like, a lot, and, like, but just again, why have it, like, you could say, oh, the government schools, the police, they're, in aggregate, they're so good, with these systems that we have, the bus comes and picks up my kid, and, I have a road to drive into work, and, if I need to, I can actually call the cops, and, everything is relatively safe. And so why would I think different about this now? And I know you were saying that it's going to change, and it will change. So maybe we should start thinking about it. But, like, you're just the fundamental why that's, like, logical again, I guess.
The change is rational. Well, okay, listen. If you're going to exclude certain things and then make a decision, then you're not making holistic decision making. If you're getting rid of irrational shit, okay. But if you say modern technology is no longer relevant to how we solve this problem, now let's solve this problem, why would I be required to get involved with those people? Like, I would, my first reaction would be like, nope, this sounds like a good idea for Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, not for the rest of us. So why are we all forced to do it this way, where we're going to solve this without modern technology? Why? Who said they have to? No. All of that is dumb and stupid. Nope. I'm not going to be involved in your system because you said so. I don't give a shit who you are. Period. End of talk. Go away. But then we're told that if for any reason the conversation says we must solve this problem without new technology, that we're now mandated to it. I'm like, no, I reserve the right to use new technology to destroy someone's profession at any time. Goodbye, Wainwrights. We all drive cars now. Goodbye, cobblers. We now just buy other pairs of shoes and we don't repair them because we just walk them till they fall off and they're so cheap to make that we don't need to repair them anymore. That's how shoes are now disposable because they're too expensive to repair. So if people don't understand that jobs are going to be going away because of innovation, I don't know why, because that's obvious. But if you can't recognize that the lawyers and the cops aren't really going away, you're just kind of going to get like mall cops and then a couple of Navy SEALs. That's it. to put those hours together, you wouldn't. You wouldn't do it anymore. Because the average cop is a fucking piss boy moron. By comparison, let's not even pretend that a guy who's been on the road for 15 years looks like a 4-year Navy SEAL. That fucking piss boy on the road has been jerking off at Dunkin' Donuts. He's been enjoying 3/4 of his shift for most of his 15 years. And then a quarter of his shift, he had to do something. Okay? Navy SEALs start PT before dawn. Then they're going to be given money to go practice shooting until lunch. Then they're going to go learn shit all afternoon and do stuff and move gear. And then they're going to be there till they're done. And they're going to do that every day for 4 years. They're going to have more commensurate experience in 4 years than 15-year man will have in 30. Because 15-year man spends a bunch of time learning cop bureaucracy, cop union, and learns his way around a small town. He doesn't learn his way how to operate on the globe. Showing up in Europe, I'm going to need, you need adapters just to plug your stuff in. So you have to have this skills and knowledge of, if I show up in Europe, I need adapters. Otherwise, I can't plug anything in. If I don't have adapters, I need to have a budget to go to the store and get adapters. But I need to understand every portion of my operation between now and where I'm coming back. Otherwise, I'm not. And cops seem to not understand that they're doing that whole process with every traffic stop. I don't know I'm about to come back because I'm about to pull over random. I could check the plate on random before I walk up to the car, but random is still fucking random. So if they're willing to expose themselves for stupid every day, I don't care. I don't care anymore. I'm no longer contributing. I'm no longer putting up with it. And I'm not dealing with any of this nonsense anymore. I rip this stuff out of other countries. Now I'm playing the home game. The end. The end. Don't care who doesn't like it. Don't care how many of the lawyers insist that their job is a right. No, it's not. Lawyers have been innovated past right now. They need to go learn to code. There was a learn to code meme flying around, and I'm told it was aimed at liberals, but at the same time, it seemed to be very much aimed at lawyers. Because there's a couple of lawyers who have figured out that the coders are about to put them out of business forever.
Mm-hmm. Are you learning to code?
Listen, man, I'm not. And I'll tell you why. Like, I'm on the cusp. I've just got done with this. And, like, you were talking before about how much energy you get in these topics. Imagine how much energy I have. Mm-hmm. So I'm reading all of that off now, where I can't even learn something right now. I need to push this message out, give it to I'm literally giving it away. And I'm looking for a bunch of special forces guys that still talk to each other, and they could pass it. They pass notes to each other all the time. And it needs to hit that. There's a network of people in this country that they don't talk about. And I know they're there. And there's like 2 or 3 of them. Either way, they need to start passing this book around. This is how, when you send Green Berets to another country, you send them to train the local population to fight against their government. And it's usually a military thing, but it's not always a military thing. In Vietnam, it started getting very complex because they started recognizing that there were borders involved, and there was politics involved, and there were insurgent tactics involved, plus conventional tactics. So a lot of stuff that happened in Nam was this real interesting microcosm. I'm not saying it was all cool. I'm just saying it was a real interesting microcosm of all of the things that can go right and wrong all at the same time. And then you see how, kind of how and why. Well, that's how all of these things are starting to unfold. You have to understand that terrain, and that terrain in Vietnam, nobody understands what's going on all around them at the same time. I'm working from 2008 when Bitcoin comes out. It creates a decentralized attack pattern that I don't necessarily understand. So I didn't even get into Bitcoin until, 2013 is when I heard about it. 2012, 2013 when I heard about it. But I didn't fully understand how to deploy a decentralized attack pattern on something until 2016. Because it's really complicated. It fucks with everything. It fucks with the law. It fucks with the finances. It fucks with how people perceive politics, plus how politics develops. Just because a decentralized attack pattern is very, very strange. Very strange. Have you seen the The HBO series Chernobyl?
I haven't. I want to watch it though.
Okay, now I want you to picture a map of the globe. When the Chernobyl event went off, it was only the people in the building who knew. And then you watch like 3 weeks later and you see how many people there knew, or, like 3 days later. But when the next piece, so you start seeing this information map, right? You look at this map and all of the people who know about Chernobyl show up in red, right? And they all show up around Chernobyl and Moscow for a couple of days. And then there's a couple of spattering red ones when the other scientists in the Soviet Union start talking about it. But then some red pops up in Washington, doesn't it? When the Americans found out about Chernobyl, the world didn't know. The world didn't know. Some of the Russians knew. But there was very little red on that map. And all of a sudden, you see information pop up way over in America. How did it travel there? Because we have technology that will make it just go across the world, right? So a couple of days after the Chernobyl event, the American government knows. When did we all find out? Probably days or weeks after. I don't remember. I was younger. So because of this, you see the way that information traveled, and very few people knew about it on the planet. And then everybody knew. You start seeing that map fill in with who's who and who knows what. That's the way a decentralized network peer-to-peer works. You don't necessarily know about a transaction that happened, and then when you find out it did happen, it might be days or weeks after. So the public ledger keeps you updated that a transaction happened, and it doesn't happen fraudulently. And governments have always claimed the right to know, okay, we know that the transaction wasn't fraud, and we know that the banking system in this smart contract functions. But then the government says, but we get our chance to regulate this smart contract. No, they don't. No, they don't. They get a chance to regulate US dollars flowing into the crypto market out of the dollar market. They do not get to do anything else in the smart contract. So this is where the lawyers are dead. They're already dead. They just don't know it yet. And everything that floats around everything that you and I understand to be law is real interesting. It's going to get interesting. And some of it is going to be controlled, and some of it is going to be uncontrolled. And nobody's going to know how it's really going to shape out, but it's definitely going in the way of you're going to get individual choices of what legal system represents you, what currency you use. And that's an education bump that everybody needs, because if you think your vote is important in our system now, then understanding how currency functions is definitely going to be your vote in the future, and you need to understand it. Real important.